What are some of the initial challenges you came up against as an entrepreneur with a new baby?
I always wanted a family, but I wasn't someone who was like, romanticizing motherhood or anything like that.
The thought that I have to divide my time even further, it's quite overwhelming.
It was the time I felt closer than ever to God, because I was like, yeah, Jesus, I need you to go through this.
Many of our community, they're doing both, right? They're pursuing passions, career, work, and doing really well at raising a family.
Yeah, you can have it all, but no at the same time. And again, that's the thing, going back to the seasons. And sometimes, I am 30 years old and I want to have everything in life.
Welcome to the Magnify Conversations. My name's Ruth and I'm the founder and CEO of Magnify.
And my name's Rachel and I'm one of the hosts of this show.
Magnify is a global community and content platform focused on equipping women like you to grow in and impact your sphere of influence. We truly want to see you thrive in all areas of life and want to display what faith can look like at the center of that too.
We started the conversations because we wanted to have real discussions about the things that matter. Money, relationships, and work, all through the lens of faith and our relationship with God.
Ultimately, we know as multifaceted women, things are rarely one size fits all. So we speak with many different women who are from our community and hear their stories. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Magnify Conversations.
This week, we're joined by Fernanda in the Magnify Studio to talk about balancing and embracing the early years of motherhood with our identity and ambition outside of motherhood.
Fernanda is a Brazilian living in London. She's a wife, mother, content creator, and founder of Friendship London, a luxury pre-loved online shop.
We loved how honestly Fernanda spoke about how she safeguarded herself from comparison to other women as a mother and entrepreneur, and why we can feel the need to pick a side when it comes to the trad wife versus the career woman battle.
So let's get into this conversation.
Well, I'm so excited to have with us today Fernanda. Thank you for joining us on the Magnify Conversations.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, we've got a great topic, really, which is about navigating the early years of motherhood, identity, ambition. I feel, Rachel, as well, I think you would have so much to share on this as well.
Yeah. And we're going to talk a bit about the tension, I think, as well, between the trad wife, the career woman. It would be great to talk about that too.
Yeah.
Exciting.
So before we get into the topic, we've got some icebreakers, to warm you up, the irony. But so if you could only strictly purchase, wear and style vintage or modern clothes and trends, what would you choose?
Oh, wow.
For both of you as well, what would you choose? Ooh, it's hard actually.
I think I would go for vintage probably, because we are in 2024, so vintage is not that long ago.
Okay, so it's not too bad.
It's not like the super. I think because you can have so much unique pieces.
Okay.
So I really like that.
Okay, Rachel, what about
Same
you?
for me too, because I think I feel like your style would get better as well, because I think you've got to think, you can't just walk into any old shop or just looking at any old shop online. You've got to think a little bit more what goes together. I just think especially if we're talking vintage, the quality, things were. There are some amazing brands now doing lots of amazing small handmade pieces, incredible. But I think that's just not as common. So for me. What about you?
Oof, it's a hard one because I've made some fashion mistakes. But I do see myself as a 60s housewife in my head. I don't have the budget to fulfill my dream yet. So I think, vintage as well. Because the quality of clothing, so definitely
and it's
that.
really fit.
The fit. Okay, so we're going to be talking about family today, so I'm going to give you another icebreaker, which is kind of on those lines. It says, if it was easy to make money, make friends, and build a solid community anywhere you went, where would you live with your family and why?
It depends what day you get me on. I love New York City. I know that is the most token answer, right? But I can see myself if money's not an object, guys, come on, we're really dreaming here.
Yeah.
Living in, a nice townhouse near green spaces with my children, raising them in the city, but you've got to think geographically, you're still not a million miles away from like moving up north towards like Cape Cod, Massachusetts. There's beautiful coastal places up there, but living in the city. The reason why is not only because I love it, but I love the diversity, just imagine the experience of growing up in a city like New York. I imagine is incredible. I suppose it depends who you ask. Maybe I'm living in a dream world. But I think if you really push me on it, that would be my answer.
What about you, Fernanda?
So I love living in London, to be honest. I really do. So somewhere around maybe like Wimbledon or Richmond. I love those areas. But also California is amazing because the weather is amazing.
Yes, amazing.
So maybe somewhere in California because you always have the sun shining. That's what I miss the most here.
I'm a California like beach person, but all I could see in my head was a ranch, like horses, a farm. That's all I could see, like putting my children on horses, like get on your horse. So for me, if there was community, because I love people.
That's the key.
I would want to see people, but I would love to have a lot of animals, just chickens everywhere, like to eat and to, grow. But for me, I need a farm somewhere like Texas. I don't know.
A ranch.
A ranch,
Growing your food.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Love it. Yeah. So Fernanda, so good to have you with us. Why is it important to you that we're having this conversation today?
So is a topic that is really close to my heart, especially after becoming a mom. I started working when I was very young. And today I say like, oh, I'm living a dream that I never knew I had, like becoming a mom. I always wanted a family, but I wasn't someone who was like, romanticizing motherhood or anything like that. But when I became a mom, I was like, wow, that's amazing. That's a beautiful mission. But I also love being Fernanda, not just the mom, like working, doing the things that I like. So that's why I'm really excited to talk about like this balance. Really so try to find.
Totally, exactly. We will delve right
and I know
into that.
I'm very like early on in the journey, but
but then it's fresh experience as well. And I would love to know just a bit about, you're from Brazil, so a bit of like your family of origin, how you were raised, and kind of how you ended up in London and then coming to the decision of having your first child.
Definitely the way I was raised has like a huge impact in who I am now. So I have two sisters. I am the middle child. My parents, they were always entrepreneurs. They always had their businesses. I like grew up seeing my mom working with my dad. So she was always like they always worked together. My dad used to travel the whole week, and my mom like staying with us and taking care of all the admin stuff. So I've always seen her. Working and taking care of us. We moved from like a different city, from like away from our hometown in Brazil. So at the beginning, she knew like no one there, like in the city. So it was just her taking care of us and working and like just juggling everything. And to us, that was something really natural. And so as they had a business, we were always working together as a family. So like traveling together. My dad used to go to the US to visit suppliers, and he would take like one of us at each time. So one daughter at each time. So we could be with him, like learn how the business works. So it was just like something natural to me and my sisters. Like we are all entrepreneurs now because like it's just natural. That was our example. Lived my whole life in Brazil. Studied in the US for a few months, like went there to do some like fashion courses, communication courses, and like to learn English, but always in Brazil. And then in 2013, 11 years ago, that's when I met my now husband, boyfriend at the time. Actually, I just like met him like first online, but a mutual friend introduced us. He lived here. He's also Brazilian. But he lives here since he was 7. Actually, his family, they moved here in 93 as Christian missionaries.
Oh, wow.
So they live here like their whole lives, and they have a very beautiful story with the country. He's Brazilian, but he was brought up here. We had long distance relationship between Brazil and the UK. So quite a long distance. We have it's long story short, because we have a big story before we started dating. But yeah, then we always knew we wanted to get married, but it was timing. We were very young at the time, so we just needed like to adjust timing and like uni studies, etc. And we got married in 2019, and I moved to London like 3 days after my wedding.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So basically, that's it.
Wow.
And then I moved to London in 2019. I love the city. I love living here. Obviously, like adjusting the first year was really, really difficult. Adjusting everything. I had a whole career in Brazil before, like working with social media, being a content creator, influencer, like already working with so many brands, etc. And especially because of the language, we speak Portuguese in Brazil. I had a big like Portuguese speaker audience, and then I moved to London, and then I had to like figure out what I was going to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it basically.
Yeah.
It's so interesting that you said you saw your parents doing something and now you and your sisters have taken on that entrepreneurial spirit. And I think my mum used to tell me, your children won't do what you tell them, they'll do what you do.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of us embody our parents. And coming from that entrepreneurial background, you know, and then going into marriage, did you have certain expectations of what your marriage would look like? Did you say to your husband, I'm going to keep being an entrepreneur? Or did you feel you were going to change from that? You know, what were the sort of conversations about?
I remember when we knew like, oh, we are getting married and I am moving to London, like to join him. I was like, oh, it's almost like I have a blank canvas in front of me. Because I studied fashion design. I have like this background in fashion. There are so many amazing companies here. I could like have so many opportunities. But I was like, I want to keep doing what I'm doing. At the time, like it was pretty much the influencer content creation thing. I want to build my audience here because I really want to be flexible when we have kids. I always had this in mind, like the flexibility. Again, because I saw my parents having this flexibility with us. There was something really important to me. So even though I think it was maybe the hardest path to follow, I wanted that, and he was absolutely on board with it. I'm super happy. He's very supportive of like what I do. Like, everything, like every project that I have, he's like, yeah, I trust you, like you can do that. Which is amazing.
Good. Yeah. I think the entrepreneur word is so popular. But when someone else is relying on you, not just husband and wife, a child you're not going to have a baby, and this idea or project actually has to be something you have to live off of. You know, how much trust do you have to have in yourself as an individual, you know, to make it work, or faith in yourself? Were you sort of praying and questioning yourself at the time, or were you determined like I'm gonna continue to move forward this way, even though it's hard? I don't know whether you have similar ideas, Rachel, just in terms of now that I have people relying on me, do I have to be different about my business or my career? Because definitely something I'm thinking about at the moment. So yeah, I just wanted to know.
A good question. I had so many doubts, like on the way. Of course, sometimes even like talking to him, like, "Am I doing the right thing?" It's like I don't know. Should I follow a different path? Should I take a different direction? And again, my husband was always very supportive, especially having our family in mind. Like, again, we wanted to have this balance. Like, we always wanted myself like to be flexible, to not having a lot of help here from family and having kids. So that was something really important to us. And our priorities were like, that's our priority. So let's like, and that's the season we are in now. You know, like you are like working, still like building your business and everything, but after having our first son, he's our priority. So you just do what you have to do, you know. Keep working, but don't worry a lot about, I don't know, work. Even though I keep like working, and I'm so hard on myself. Sometimes we are hardest like bosses.
Yeah.
Because I had to have like a lot of grace with myself and trust in God and pray a lot, honestly.
Yeah.
What are some of the, I'm trying to ask you on that.
Yeah.
What are some of the initial challenges you came up against as an entrepreneur with a new baby? Because there's, I love the idea of like flexibility, but there's hard work.
Yeah.
The fact is when you're the one responsible for like getting your own paycheck, essentially, there's a greater pressure on that. It's not kind of like, I'll just take my maternity leave and just kick back and do whatever I want to. Specifically as an entrepreneur, what were some of the challenges for you when you had your first child?
Yeah, so basically adjusting everything I needed to adjust. So when, now I'm pregnant. And firstly, I was doing everything from start to finish in my business. Literally all the steps. I have to find someone to help me, to work with me. I have to train this person. We have someone like helping now that she's an agent. She's amazing. Definitely answered prayer because she's really, really good helping us. And I had to adjust my timing, my work timing. I work a lot like in the evenings. So my son, he goes to bed very early on, like 6. It's literally like 6 p.m. bedtime sharp because I need to work now. Seriously, I was always so like strict with sleep and etc. because it helped me working. And I think like adjusting everything that I needed to adjust was something very important.
So you mentioned that you moved from Brazil to London and getting married. So there's a lot of adjustments and you didn't necessarily have the support, like your family close by. You know, was it hard for you sort of being a new mum and seeing other women sort of being able to do like certain things with their families? And did you ever did comparison kind of come in to that, you know, into your journey? Yeah.
So I am really blessed in this sense because I have my mother-in-law here. So my husband's mom, she's here, and she helps us like whenever she can, which is amazing. And also when I had my first son, my mom came like from Brazil to stay with us for like 3 months, and now she's coming again, which is also amazing. So I really like counting my blessings, like in this sense. But yeah, definitely, I feel like comparison and motherhood, they can go like side by side. To me, it was a lot of like checking on my timeline who I was following. Sometimes like unfollowing some people because I know that's not like so good for me like to be seeing. But I also get a lot of like inspiration from other moms. Like, oh yeah, she has the same reality, and so how does she like adjust her day-to-day life? You know, because it's still like obviously there will be some people with more help than I have, but also some people with less help than I have. So I try to look to the bright side. And look up to some moms that, what I can like learn from her, you know, that's more like my approach. But on the other hand, it was really difficult in the side of like comparison, seeing some people, let's say, getting in shape before, you know, like I think someone like each one knows like what's hard. To me, it was like, oh my God, why am I not fitting in my jeans anymore? And she's like, she looks amazing. You know, sometimes it's hard. Like it's something not everyone talks about because, that's fine. You just had a baby, but it's not that easy. But I had to just like look at myself, my family, and my own journey.
Just in terms, obviously, just your relationship with God and your walk with Jesus day to day, absolutely, if he's at the center of our world, if you like, that transforms us, doesn't it? And it also informs the decisions we make. How has your relationship with Jesus impacted how you've handled this time? And I kind of mean it through the lens of, you know, you were saying you kind of knew you wanted a family, but you'd not necessarily felt some overwhelming motherly instincts. It kind of became a decision, and you made it, and you were like, I don't know how this is going to go. And then you're like, wow, this is amazing. How has your relationship with Jesus informed how you've navigated this time? I think especially as an entrepreneur.
Yes. It was the time like I felt closer than ever to God, because I was like, Jesus, I need you to go through this. So I like praying a lot and reading my Bible, not necessarily sometimes reading, but listening while I was like with the baby, to learn and to see what God says about children, what the Word of God says about like motherhood, about like our role as a woman, you know? So it was a time that I was really searching that, like to understand and also to like discern the seasons in life. There was something that was really like, that really like spoke to my heart. Like, oh yeah, there's a time for everything, there's a season for everything, and I am in the season right now. Like, oh yeah, I want to work, but I have a baby, I have like a wedding, a marriage, sorry. So yeah, it was like a time that I was closer than ever to God, I would say.
Yeah. That's encouraging because I think there's been so much change in my life, and I'm sure, Rachel, you can relate to this, that life moves really fast, but as a woman, you change a lot of things, even about yourself. So you change your name, you change where you live, then your role can change. And I was just laughing at my husband. I was like, you haven't had to change. Like, your body hasn't changed either. And, you know, there's a lot of external change, but in your heart, things are changing as well.
Yes.
And I would love to know from both of you, this may be selfishly for me, but how do you stick to parts of your identity that, you know are good and you want to hold on to, but also embrace the changes that are going to come with motherhood, with your career? How do you stick to your true identity and then also embrace the change that's coming?
Yeah, I mean, for me, so I have 2 children, and my eldest is 7. So it feels like it just happened. You know, you said about how time, it literally feels, I still feel sometimes like a new mum. That's a strange thing to say, but I do. Time just goes really quickly. I think for me, I'm quite similar to you, Fernanda, in that I'd known at some point I wanted a family, but I'd never really thought about coming to a point where I really want a child or a baby. I don't know, it's a bit, I completely related to what you said when you said that. But I knew before, really I knew deep down, I'm still going to be who I am when I've had children, right? But that's often not the narrative. The narrative that people give you is you're really going to change, which is true, which is true. You're really going to change. But I think they meant it in terms of like all your entire life's you're going to reorientate like every single priority. There's an element of truth. There's absolutely an element of truth in that. But as a core person, my identity, I didn't actually change. I was still Rachel. It's just I was wearing another hat of being a mum now. And I suppose because my perspective of life is also that I'm hopefully always growing and evolving and becoming different.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's being able to flow with that change in motherhood too. Now, that I didn't find that easy, actually. I find that quite hard, especially with my first child. And I wasn't well, you know, as well. I had anxiety, depression, and different things going on. So it was quite a turbulent time when I had my first child. But I just believe, like with or without children, that evolving process, it was kind of part of my identity as well, to keep growing, to keep changing, to accept that you've kind of got to go with the flow in that. But really practically ways that I kept and try to keep hold of like who I am is just making sure that I understand how do I actually refine and refresh myself in the midst of what's going to make me the best mother to my children is them getting the best of me.
Definitely.
So I've got to make sure that I know how am I growing, what space do I need to do that, not just to be selfish, but in order to actually be the best mother that I can to my children. So I don't know if that answers your question, but the identity thing, I think I think a lot of women, especially entrepreneurs and women who are more ambitious, I think, like many of our community, can feel that their identity is shaking a little bit after children. I experienced that completely the first time around, but I think I learned to soften, to not, I guess, to take off other people's expectations of what they thought was going to happen and not going to happen, and just allow myself to evolve and change as I would have done anyway. It's just that now I'm evolving in this role of being a mother and this amazing gift and opportunity of being able to raise children.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can totally like agree and resonate with you. I am like a very practical person, like in general, and that like came with me obviously like into my motherhood. So I'm very practical when like, yeah, you have to do something, you just do it. And I'm like, I don't have this whole like mom guilt thing, to be honest. Like I'm very practical and like, no, yeah, you have to do what you have to do and that's it. And I always wanted like, yeah, what are the things I like? What are the things I enjoy doing? How can I still like do those things and not like, oh yeah, now I'm a mom and my life is over and I'm like 100% mom. Like, no, I'm only a mom and nothing else. I like to go out like with my husband, like do things. Even with, I remember when our son, he was like very small, we would take him like sleeping to a date night and he was like sleeping like like in the prom,
because it's what you got to do sometimes.
And that felt good because we went out, we did something that we enjoyed, like, and we take our son literally like everywhere. We are very like adventurous, which is good, like feels good to us. So these are some things that really helped, like being adaptable and just facing obviously like the reality of like adjusting life with a baby, but still I take him everywhere. That's my thing.
You mentioned seasons and time, and that really spoke to me because I need to embrace the seasons I'm in sometimes and not hope for the next one and be present. But time is a really like precious thing. I never feel like I have enough of it. I'm a busybody. Like I've slowed down, I think, a bit, but I'm a very, like, again, practical, hands-on person. And the thought that I have to divide my time even further, it's quite overwhelming. And I'm just wondering, you know, how do you prioritize? You know, there's so many things pulling at your time. How do you bring things in order? Especially your relationship with God is like, we all said, it's what sustains us. And sometimes I feel so bad. I'm like, I've only prayed for like 1 minute today, but I have 1,000 requests of God. How do you prioritize your time, especially also your relationship with God? How do you bring that in and keep that at the center?
At the beginning of this year, when I found out I was pregnant with my second, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to have 2 under 2. That's going to be quite busy. I was like, oh, okay, I need to make some adjustments in my routine. And I was like, I'm going to then wake up early than my husband and my son to have like my quiet time to like read my Bible. And not only that, like I just like to wake up in the morning and have like the house, like everything is silent.
I relate
have
to that
time to myself, like get ready. It's not every day, because some people think, oh, how can you do that being pregnant? Like, no, it's not easy. It's not every day. But it helps me so much, you know. By the time they wake up, I'm like, I feel like I've done so many things to fill up my cup that I can be better for them, you know. And yeah, to me that was like a biggest like practical adjustment that I did. Now, like towards the end of the second pregnancy, I feel more tired, and I'm like, no, I just need to sleep more. I'm not being so consistent with that, but that's something that really helped. Even like doing like a quick workout, like going to the gym or doing something in my living room, like it helped me a lot. So I have my own time in the morning before they wake up.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. My name's Rachel.
And my name's Sinead, and we'll be your hosts for these episodes as we're joined by incredible women from the Magnify community to chat through their lived journeys and experiences across money, relationships, and work, all from the perspective of their relationship with God.
We know so many of you already watch these conversations, so if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, hit the button now. It really helps this important content to reach even more women around the world and ensures we keep bringing these conversations to you.
We hope you enjoy this episode. Let's get into it.
A perspective I'm really interested, just kind of around this topic, is the continuum. At one end of the spectrum, you've got career girl / we all know about the career girl, career woman. And the other end of the spectrum now, which is emerging, is trad wife. Right? Not so much what you think about either of those, right? Because I think hopefully we're mature enough as women to know that children are a gift, incredible opportunity to raise children, show them the world. And it's a huge responsibility, but an incredible opportunity too. But again, for many of our community, they're doing both, right? They're pursuing passions, career, work, and doing really well at raising a family. And that requires a blend. It requires sacrifice at certain times, you know, for either side of that continuum. I guess it's more of a commentary thing. I'm interested to know, like, why do you think we're so obsessed with living at one extreme end of the spectrum? Because it's very extreme to be like on the very, if you're a mother anyway, you're on the career girl end, right? And I don't think many people do that as much anymore. But the other side for me is super extreme too. So tradwife, which is literally, there's nothing, okay, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but like very much making everything from scratch, being very present in the home. Why do you think we are so obsessed with either end of the spectrum? And the reason let me tell you my motivation for asking the question, because I think a lot of our tensions and sometimes mum guilt or whatever that we struggle with comes from feeling that we have to fit. I don't know, that we just can't get it right. And we're categorized often at one kind of side of the spectrum.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, the word pride comes to mind, to be honest, because there's certain things you know you do well and you really lean into that sometimes when other things are crashing. So if your career and you're great at your job, sometimes you want to make sure that if everything else is crumbling, but I'm the boss, I'm a boss. Or the other extreme is that, okay, I might not have this career, but I can bake a cake like you've never seen before. And I think the more I grow in learning about myself and about what God has called me to, total dependence on God is actually the goal. But I think we are so quick to take back control all the time. So, I need to take it back. I need to take back this thing. This is what I'm good at. But surrendering and just saying, you know what? Actually, I don't know anything. I'm new to this, or I've never been in this stage of my life, depending on God. It's hard, but it's something that I'm just been told by God as well. You need to depend on me more rather than your past accolades and who you thought you were going to be or how well you can cook rice. You need to depend on me more because I know the future. But definitely for me, it's pride. When I start to go to those extremes of, oh, I need to be perfect in this thing, or I need to cook him dinner, I have to cook dinner tonight, then I realize, says who? Who are you, who called you to that? So definitely, that's my word at the moment, just dependence on him. It's like, it's something that I'm leaning into, I'm learning to do. But naturally, sometimes we just want to take back that control. I don't...
Yeah, definitely like trying to balance everything and understand also that each one has like different gifts and different callings. Some people, they are like very like career oriented and that's fine, that's amazing. Some others like, my dream is to be like, a stay-at-home mom or something. If that works for you and for your family, that's amazing. And also even like with the tradwife thing, I know like, and what I see is that a lot of them are like making a career out of it as well.
That's true. Kind of the interesting dichotomy with this conversation.
Because obviously you are at home, like being present and doing everything from scratch, for example. But you are like selling products online or selling courses or doing advertisement. So that's like they are not, let's say, only, not that's only, but like they are making a career, a profit, something out of it. That's what I see. So maybe that's a strategy or something.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I find it such an interesting, and I think more so for me, it's why I feel like I don't know, maybe just as when we feel the need to just justify all the time, like whichever end of the spectrum or along the continuum we are, that we've got to kind of justify to everybody else of why we are that certain way. So if you've chosen to be at home and fully like give all of your time in that season to your children, or if you're doing both, if you're working and you're a present mom, like I feel like I felt like this, and other women that I meet often feel they just need to somehow justify it. I just find it super interesting.
Yeah. I would love to know also what sacrifices you've had to make on your journey, just because we can't be all things to all people. And it's not a lovely word, sacrifice. I don't love that word, but it's the reality of life. We have to make sacrifices. And were there any particular sacrifices you had to make?
To me, definitely, as I said, the thing about waking up early. That's one. my sleep, even my free time, because before it was like, okay, I finished work, that's evening, and what am I going to do? I'm going to watch something, do something that I like. And these days, what I do like most evenings is work, for example. But to me, that's fine, because then I get to spend pretty much the whole day with my son, and I enjoy it a lot as well. So balance again. That's what works for us. But I see now that I don't have a lot of the free time that I had before.
Right.
Yeah, time's a big sacrifice in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, if it's okay, Sinead. I think, and this actually applies to you too, a lot of women, especially women in our communities, are having children in their 30s now. And just because of how career and life is, it can often coincide with kind of a peak time for career, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I had my first in my late 20s, and then I had my son in my 30s. But I can kind of see how, because we're in our 30s, often we've been in a career or started a business, and things start to really pick up and take off. And then there's this conversation about, should we have children? And maybe women get pregnant. And it can be quite a confusing time. How do you think we can make wise decisions in those times? Because it's kind of like you could be like really on the verge of something going in your career. It's like, do I wait 2 years? Do I just, not whether we have children or not, but more of a timing thing?
Yeah.
How have you been with that?
I'm going to say something quite extreme, right?
Go for
but I think everybody does what they really want to do. Like everybody, if they want to like wear that dress, they can ask 10 people about the dress, but they're going to wear the dress. And I'm starting to see in my life is a product of what I truly desire. What I truly desire will come to pass. Like as a man thinks, so he is. So I'm starting to realize that I created room and space and the faith to produce the life I have. And the things that I don't have that I desire, that either they're on their way or maybe I don't desire them as much as I think. I say this because social media gives us so many pictures of different people's lives that we think we want or we think we desire, but it's because these images are pumped into us and then they overtake sometimes what God placed in your heart in the first place. So I don't even know if I'm answering your question, but I'm starting just to truly believe that despite, these things are pulling at me and I should wait 5 years or 4 years, I have to live my life and I have to answer to God at the end of my life and say, this is what I did with what you gave me. And so I regularly check myself, like, does this honor God? Does this bring you joy? Who are you living for? And it's a scary question sometimes. I get questioned all the time about even my career. Do you see yourself doing this forever? After you put 7 years into becoming a lawyer, do you see yourself doing this forever? And the honest answer is no. I've had to ask myself hard questions because I'm now asking God, what do you desire for me? But it's scary because I don't know. I don't know what is on the other side of tomorrow. So prayer is important. Those conversations you have with God are very important, but don't lie to yourself about what you desire. I believe God puts desires in our heart for a reason. I really believe he does. And people think, what if I'm desiring is bad? It's like, no, you're a child of God. Like those desires have been placed in you. For this purpose, for a reason. And you have to explore that. You have to pray into that. You have to make sure that you don't look back over your life and say, God was calling me to this, but I was watching this woman bake a cake on Instagram and that overtook what God had called me to do, So I'm doing it because I'm talking to myself right now, but it's definitely questions that I have, me and him, that I encourage other women to have those conversations with God. Yeah,
that's very good
Yeah.
to me. Definitely prayer, and again, like talking to my husband and just aligning and adjusting our dreams and our goals as a family really helped us. And to us, like let's say like the timing of having children was very almost like natural, because we didn't exactly plan. We were just like, okay, let's see what happens. But then it happened so quick. Then I was like, wow, like God really wanted us to have these babies. And I feel really blessed. And that's an amazing gift. That's completely changed my perspective. Like when I found out I was pregnant and then pregnant again, I was like, oh yeah, like God is definitely calling me to something. You know, like giving me like these children to look after, to raise these boys. So I saw like this beautiful mission of becoming a mom, like learning how to be a mom. And yeah, that was just amazing, you know. And I was like, oh yeah, then figuring out what I had to adjust, what I had to give up. But yeah, when you just find out like, oh yeah, now I have this big responsibility, everything changes.
Yeah.
Like literally everything changes and your priorities change, everything changes.
Yeah.
That was my experience.
Yeah, no, it does. It absolutely does. The lens that you see life with. And for me, I mean, it kind of gave me more passion for what I do, though. It was funny, more passion, more drive, more focus.
You just want to be like the best version of yourself.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because it's not just about the hats you wear, it's about who you're just becoming as a person. I just wanted to know, did you, when you were pregnant, were you experiencing any fear in terms of your business? So things were going well. Was there any fear, not so much financially, but in terms of like, I feel like I'm building momentum. Is the momentum going to slow now that I'm going to be having a baby? I'm focusing on raising a child.
Yeah, I mean, let me think, because I think yes and no, because also like with my business, sometimes I was like, oh yeah, I'll have to find a way what's going to be like this way. But again, with my work like in social media, content creation, I was so excited to share my vision on family, on motherhood. I was super excited for this time for me to arrive. And then, I don't know, maybe just discover my version as a mom.
Yeah, so you kind of switched, pivoted.
Yes.
Just what you were talking about, the content you were creating. Right, okay. Yeah, amazing.
The question I was thinking of is provision in family. So as you build your family, you know that you might need more resources or more finances. To be honest, like people keep telling me that, oh, kids cost so much money. And I'm like, I'm expensive, so I don't know about the child, how expensive the child's gonna be. But sometimes it's a real conversation you have to have, you know, going forward. But do you think that we have become too greedy as a society? So we want more, more kids, bigger car, bigger house, you know, and do you think that's necessary, that we're working so much to give our children all these things, but then at what expense, at what cost are we then? I remember my mum, for example, and this could be the traditional wife versus the career one. My mum said, oh, I quit working for 2 years just to raise you. Like, oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional. And it set her back.
Okay. Yeah.
But now, looking back...
She was glad that she did it.
She was glad that she did it. And I think, what a sacrifice.
Because you benefit, you're obviously the beneficiary of that. Very similar with my own mum too.
But I'm just wondering, like, could I do that, or do we? You know, are we so obsessed with getting more that we're not willing to quit our jobs? We're not willing to slow down for our children.
I think we always have to check our motivation. Everything for me is to do with motivation and heart. Okay, so if we're thinking about entrepreneurship and, you know, working life and loving our work and raising kids and loving raising kids too, there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's to do with motivation. I think and I do think we have a problem with greed. We definitely have a problem with greed in our society, absolutely. And I remember hearing somebody say once, greed hides in the heart. Nobody. I don't know anyone. Like, we would confess to a lot of different things. I don't know anyone who wants to confess to like being greedy.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying everybody's greedy. I'm just saying as a society and as a culture, we do want more. We expect more, bigger. And I think when our motivation's right in terms of we're working because we actually love our work, setting an example for our children that are growing up, that's part of us releasing our gifts, serving, loving what we do, growing as a person, I think is a really healthy motivation. I think if we check our motivation and the reason we can't give things up, you were saying about your mum, Sinead, is because of the pull of greed. It's kind of like, but if I do this, I won't be able to have this, this, and this. But if your value is in that season of life, raising young children and feeling, it depends how you see it, feeling that you need to give them every day. Not everybody does. And that's not my situation either. It's checking your heart behind that. I think if you think, I can't give up work because if I give up work for this season or for this time, or I try and reorientate things differently, it means I just can't have that thing. I suppose you've got to check your motivation and your heart of what's the highest value right now. For some people, it's not even a choice, right? It's not even a choice. And I think the privilege that quite often we have is being able to choose. Do I pull back from work a little bit for a time? Not everybody even has that choice. But the key is the sacrifice. If you believe it's the right thing, are you willing to do it? But it's not necessarily the right thing for everyone to do in that season.
And also seeing what you do as a job, like your career, your business, as also like a platform to bless other people.
Of course.
Because obviously we are called like to, like I feel like my family is my priority, but also my business like blesses other people. So I think that's a really good perspective to look on, you know? And also I think for the kids, like to look to your mom and say, oh wow, like she was working, look what she was doing. They would be proud as well.
Yeah, and I think that brings that question that women ask all the time, can we have it all? Can a woman have it all? Some people are like, you can't have it all, sweetie, you can't. Some people say at different times you can have it all. But it's funny, Fernanda, you said that knowing that what you're doing is blessing others, and what you're saying about motivations, you know, that's starting to sound like the answer for me to this. But do you think that women can have it all?
I never knew the answer to this. I still don't think I do. But someone said to me, it's probably 4 years ago, and it struck me. So when this question comes up, this is always what I think about. She was asked this. She was a very successful woman. She's got older, grown-up children, very successful in business, and raised a great family, successful mom as well. And she was hosting a panel conversation, and somebody asked her, I know it's just the age-old question, but I was like, I'm dying to know what she says. Can women have it all? And she said, yes, but not all at the same time.
Oh, I had this quote in my mind, because that's absolutely what I heard.
Yes, but not all at the same time. It's not, when we think about life is a blend of things, right? Balance, I don't know that I really believe in it. We always want to obtain like equilibrium, and we want to optimize everything so that we feel like we're giving our part of ourselves to everything. But really, like, life is ebb and flow, and it's not usually 50-50. There's lots of different percentages going on in terms of our time and our capacity. But when she said that, it kind of released me a little bit to think this, hopefully we've got years ahead of us, right? And we've got an opportunity to really be present wherever we are now, wherever we feel that is, whether that's with children or in the workplace or wherever it is, or a mix of the two, and everywhere else that we find ourselves. It's not about trying to have everything at once. That was her perspective. I think I agree with it. She'd been very successful. She'd learned a lot of lessons, both in family and work. But that just rang true for me as yes, but not all at the same time. Sometimes we're so desperate to feel that everything's got to be high flying at every season of life. I just don't think it's realistic.
Yeah, I heard this as well. Like literally the same quote. Like, you can have it all, but no at the same time. And again, that's the thing, like going back to the seasons. And sometimes, I'm 30 years old and I want to have like everything in life, but I have hopefully like so much life still ahead, so many things. And let's say my sons, they're not going to be like this little forever. So maybe that's a season, let's say, for me to focus more on them while still working, and then they will grow up and then I'll work even more. So, you know.
Yeah, I feel like trying to have it all at the same time is like going to a buffet and trying to stack everything, you know, and trying enjoying every taste.
Yeah.
It's not going to work, you know, and I think some of us, we visually see things and we think we want them, but you won't even taste the goodness of it in that season because you're trying to fit everything, you know, in this season that is better for another season. So I just thought about food. I don't know.
No, because you know, it can be fear motivated though, that we want to have everything at once. Because you think, well, I think that's especially that question I was asking before about women coming to a point, some women in their 30s where they're ready to have children, but also the maybe feeling like they're really crushing it in their career, and it's like, is it a good time? I think some of the fear around that can be, if I don't do this now, if I don't have this now, I'm never going to have it. And that's the thing of the buffet, right? It's like, you can see all this food in front of you. And it's like, you're almost saying to yourself, if I don't eat everything now, I'm never going to get to taste this food again. It's actually not true. But you tell yourself that when you're there, all right. And I think sometimes it can be a little bit driven by fear that we just think it has to be now, or because somebody's told us you should be at this point in your career now, or as an entrepreneur you shouldn't be stopping now, you should be putting everything into it, you're going to lose momentum. It can be quite fear driven, I think.
I had to learn a lot to have like grace myself, you know.
I think fear is what I made a decision a long time ago not to make decisions from a place of fear. Even if all the evidence was telling me you need to rush or you need to do this, I've lived with fear before, and I was like, you can't live here in my life. So I really made a conscious decision not to live from a place of fear. Faith, is this a faith choice? Yeah, it might be a faith choice to choose to delay having a child for another year. But if you're truly making that decision in faith, like God honors faith. Like you can't please him without it. So that's a question I check myself a lot with is this being made from a decision of fear, like will the food run out, or is it being made from a place of faith? And I know that I'll please God if I make it from that
from
place.
Faith and not fear. Totally.
Absolutely, It's amazing.
Fernanda, this has been a really helpful conversation. It's been good. It's just so good to hear from your experience as being someone who's moved to the country like 5-6 years ago, started business, having children, reflecting a lot of our community as well. But I guess my last question is just, as a community, is there anything we can support you in? Maybe you could tell us a bit about what you do in your business, where we can find you online.
So as I said, I work as an influencer, content creator. So I share my routine, my lifestyle. It's funny because there you see more like my life as a mom and at home, and also like working. So it's just a mix of everything, how my life is. I love sharing my routine on my Instagram. You can put like the handle maybe in the description because it's not that it's my name and then my last name, which is not that easy to say in English. And then I have my online shop, which is a second-hand store. We sell luxury pre-loved items. It's called Friend Shop London. We are also on Instagram. We have a website, and you can find some really nice accessories and pre-loved things there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Fernanda.
Thanks for having me. I loved it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for today's conversation. We hope you gleaned as much from it as we did.
You can join us to cultivate wisdom, be inspired, and gain knowledge on how to put your best foot forward in your career, money, and relationships, all grounded in faith as we grow together.
If you haven't already, subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with all of our episodes at the Magnify Conversations.
If you have a story to share and would like to be featured on the conversations, get in touch with Team Magnify through magnifycollective.com and head to our contact form.
We'll see you soon for another installment. From all of our team and crew, have a great week.